Hi there, Steve Perkins again, the cooking buff from the Muscle Kitchen, right here in the Muscle Kitchen, my kitchen. And today's segment of We Eat Like You Mean It is all about protein. If there's one subject that everyone asks about when it comes to bodybuilding or training or physical fitness, it's protein. Most people think that that's like so important you ignore everything else, but it's not at all true. Yes, protein is one of the building blocks for muscle, but just one of them. So, but it's an important one because if you're eating crappy protein, you're not going to be developing or performing the way you want or desire. So let's get into it. Wow, there's many different kinds of proteins. Surprising sources that you may not even have thought about before. The flesh ones are the obvious ones, the meats and the fishes. But there's some others that you really should try, and I have, and there's some amazing alternatives with four-legged proteins, of course the beef and the pork, which I don't go to for pork very much because they make glandular medicines out of pork entrails and organs, and that's a medicine they make it out of pork pigs because their organs are very similar to ours. So there's kind of a little cannibalistic mad pig syndrome thing going on with that. And I mean, once in a blue moon, I'll have some bacon, but it's kind of like because it was too much trouble to take it off the sandwich or something like that. But I don't have it every morning. I don't have sausage. I don't eat ham very, very rarely. So pork is off my list for the most part. There's buffalo, there's bison, which is amazing clean protein because they haven't figured out how to screw them up with terrible feedlots and growth hormones and antibiotics and junk like that. Another there's free range flesh like ostrich, which is surprisingly high protein and low fat source of protein for us, and which is really great. And it tastes just like chicken. No, it doesn't. It doesn't really taste like chicken at all. It's a unique flavor, but it's really good. And it's a very sustainable flesh resource, as it were. And turkey and chicken. And I lived for many years in Colorado, and it was kind of hard to avoid it. I was in undergraduate school, actually, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, this guy, a friend of ours, woke us up. It was like 2 a.m, and he's all excited. He says, I killed a moose. I killed a moose. And I said, what? It turned out it was really a deer. Poor thing. But he says, man, we gotta eat this now because it's, I can't freeze all of it. Now you don't know what to do with the rest of it. So at 3:30 in the morning, we're having amazingly fresh, very, very fresh venison steaks. And sorry, Bambi, I mean, you're tasty. It was really very tasty. But I digress. I promised I would. Every video I will digress. Now the fin fish, the swimming fish, we have to be careful about. I really don't, anymore, I don't willingly, knowingly buy or eat fish that's swimming around in the Pacific Ocean, thanks to Fukushima and the radiation, which is still leaking and is still present in the water and the air blowing eastward from Japan. So try to go for any other ocean, any other sea that has fish in it, and I'm paranoid. I'm paranoid about radiation. I think that's a healthy paranoia. And the government won't tell us the real truth. They don't want to cause panic. They just rather cause illnesses. Don't get me started. Onward, there's a couple of other very large fish tend to eat a lot of small fish, and then there's that culmination of mercury through the larger and larger fishes. So the very large fish, like swordfish and albacore tuna, sharks, they tend to have a lot more mercury in them. So in general, the smaller fishes are healthier. So like, I go crazy for anchovies. I like anchovies when they're properly prepared. Sardines are great. Kipper snacks are wonderful. It's a very, very inexpensive and high quality protein. Nobody buys kipper snacks anymore, at least in America. Very, very popular in the UK. But it's a very clean source of protein. And it comes in a can, so you throw it in your gym bag, pop it open with a fork and then eat it with a fork. It's a very good protein. What else? Oh, okay, then the shellfish, the mollusks. They're very good protein. Yes, they're good, and they're very satisfying. I love mussels, and there's wonderful clams and lobster, of course. But they're bottom dwellers, so technically they, are scavengers. Technically, so it depends on where they're caught and what their environment. There are fish farms, and you can get tilapia farm-raised tilapia, which is, in theory, a great idea, but you never know what they're feeding the fish. They don't put that stuff on the labels, unfortunately. They really should. If I were king of the world, I'd require it, but I'm not yet. So we have to deal with investigating and trusting. I did put on my website a new resource. The Monterey Bay Aquarium used to have a fish watch guide where you'd print it out and you could take it to the store to know what fish was safest, and their catching and farming practices were the most sustainable, most moral. And now they've got an app for smartphones. So go to my website, The Mussel Kitchen, and in the protein chapter, you'll see the link there for the app for, it's called Sea Watch. So they ask you a lot more questions about it specifically. When you're standing in the store, now what did Steve say? What did they say? So if you have your phone with you, you can check that out. Sushi. Everyone likes sushi. I do too. In moderation. If you have a medical condition, they used to tell us that if you're HIV positive, you should never ever eat sushi because it might be a problem if your immune system is weak. Now, I do a lot to bolster my immune system, so I'm not as concerned, but nor do I have sushi every night. Maybe once every 2 or 3 months. I think that's sane. My body does kind of like go through a what the hell's going on thing after I have sushi, but it's not a terrible thing. It's not like I have agita or diarrhea or anything like that or sour stomach. It's just, well, the other night we went there to a special at happy hour and we had like tons of sushi for, it was crazy, like $12. And I ate too much of it, but and that was a problem. It wasn't because of the fish, it's because of me. I thought I was like, well, I'm being economical by eating all this. But it was great sushi. There are non-flesh sources of protein, like soy is the big one. I avoid soy like it's poison because it probably has been poisoned. It's one of the very first seeds that Monsanto bought and patented and copyrighted. And then they started treating it with terrible genetically modified it and terrible pesticide control so that the seeds would grow in more wild conditions and resist more bugs. And that's the start of the GMO nightmare. Thank you for the soybeans from Monsanto. So I avoid that entirely. And my heart goes out to people who are dedicated to being vegan and want to be bodybuilders, because I just honestly don't believe there's a way you can do both very well. My roommate, in fact, is a vegan, and he once in a while eats some fish and some chicken, but once in a while. But I find that a lot of vegans are missing B12 vitamins, and that has to be compensated carefully. And a bunch of the amino acids you should supplement heavily and very carefully if you decide to go totally vegan. So I avoid soy proteins, even though there's a lot of sources out there, a lot of choices. There's a vegetable protein, a protein made out of vegetables. I just don't understand how that's possible, but it's there. There's also pea protein, there's rice protein. I've seen all kinds of stuff. I haven't even tried them. I stick with the whey protein because it seems to be the most viable. The problem with whey protein is, and let me go step back and talk a little bit more about the dairy part of proteins. There's also eggs, of course, and cottage cheese that's the original bodybuilder thing of long ago, before all the fancy powders and supplements. It was tuna fish and cottage cheese. Bodybuilders ate tuna fish and cottage cheese every day, every day, every day. Now it's more egg whites and eggs and whey. Whey protein is a bit of a problem. Notice how huge the jugs are. This is almost empty. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to lift it with one hand. It's huge, and it tells you to take 3 scoops, and these are big honking scoops, just for like 20 grams of protein or something like that. This one's similar. It's almost full, so it's heavier. But they're huge. The reason for that is the whey, which is the curdle part of milk, cow's milk. They distill that and they refine it, and the first thing that they take out of the milk, the milk, is the cheese part that's made for cheese. So that's the quality part of the cow's milk that is processed out first. Then they process the whey and that's what all this stuff is. So all this bulk, you have to do huge amounts of whey protein powder to get any sort of adequate protein. And it varies. You really, really do have to read the labels. You have to take a calculator with you almost to weigh the cost of the whole canister, how many servings there are for that money, how many scoops per serving. Of course, that's going to vary quite a bit. But also, it's like, how much protein are you getting? So you've got those several factors to deal with to know if you're getting the right thing. And then, of course, there's all the other stuff they put in the protein. There's all kinds of supplements and B vitamins, and they try to do all kinds of fancy things to make it sound unique from all the competition. I can't make any specific recommendations. I'm not getting paid to, but I'm not being paid not to either. Actually, there are 2 that I found that just blew my mind. Unfortunately, it's not available anymore because it was a brand new company, had a marketing snafu, but this guy who developed it, his name is Don Bodenbach. He is, I admire this man's intelligence and his objectivity and his moral sense of what is right in this world about nutrition. He's very, very fair and incredibly sharp. Anyhow, he developed something called Protein FX, and the whole body FX company kind of folded. But he came up with a protein that was amazing because it was microencapsulated, so it would deliver protein over a period of time. It was like time-lapsed or sustained release protein, which was wonderful. And several different kinds of proteins in there as well. But it's gone, so forget it. And this is what it looked like. It was a great thing while it lasted. This other one that I really, really like, Evolate, it's called Paleo Protein. And I'll show it to you very briefly, and it's gone. Can't show you prices either. What's going on with a paleo protein is it's unique because, first of all, it comes in a bag. You're not paying for plastic, and you don't have to recycle that stuff or worry about filling a landfill. But this stuff is 1 scoop. There's 15 scoops, 15 servings per container. It has a bit of sodium in it, but you get 25 grams per scoop. And the scoops are normal size, they're not that crazy big old things. It's like a normal size scoop, which is really wonderful. The other wonderful part is that the paleo protein is 100% beef protein plus egg protein. Nothing else. They have a absolutely unflavored plain formula. There's a cacao, not chocolate, cacao flavored, and a vanilla. It's because they want to make money. If you sell just unsweetened, people are going to go, ew. So they have just 3 different kinds, but it's just a great value. It's like $35, which is high end for a bag, but a bag will last quite a bit because you don't need it all. You don't need a half a cup of powdered protein to put in your smoothie to get something out of it. Okay, on to smoothies, of course. This is the staple because you can pack a lot into one little one serving, and you can catch up at like the end of the day if you know you haven't had enough protein. You can, or if you're on the run and you only have 10 minutes for I says, gee, I really need to eat something and it needs to be protein and needs, well, that's the way to do it. So I have a little container here. I have one of these blender wands, which I use most of the time because it's so quick and simple, and it's a done deal. Plus I can put things in there too, like I put a lot of my essential oils in into the cage to do my smoothies. Of course, you can do the old traditional blender version, but that's a lot more hassle to clean. But you know, you can do a lot more volume in that, so that's a great option. So anyhow, this is a quick run through, 15 minutes worth of protein, and there's probably more that I haven't even mentioned yet. But do keep aware of what where your protein's coming from. Read the labels like crazy. Question. Go to their websites if you have a question about the product, and call customer service, whoever they are, and let them know that, well, I want to know where your fish comes from. I want to know where your protein sources are. If it just says it's vegetable, is it organically grown vegetables, or is it, you know, I always feel better when I step on some toes. They're making tons of money and they're culpable. They should be responsible for the stuff they're making money on. And if it's going into my body, I certainly want to know what it is. And I never regret it. I never do. So this is Steve Perkins again, our little segment on protein, and hopefully this has been helpful to you. This is again part of the series of Eat Like You Mean It, and this is the Muscle Kitchen's Cooking Buff. Steve Perkins saying bye for now. Ciao.